Welcome back to Recreation Rendezvous, the Bloomington Parks and Recreation podcast about all things that happen at the junction of nature and play. Here in the podcast studio with us today are some very special guests. We have Chris Hamric, our aquatics facility manager, and as we'll talk about more in today's episode, the Frank Southern Ice Arena manager as well, along with Alec Curry, our sports specialist. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, we've got a really exciting thing to talk about for the summer of 2025 because for the first time, at least, in the 20 years since I've been with Bloomington Parks and Recreation, the Frank Southern Center is going to be open periodically during the summer. Chris, tell us a little bit about about Frank Southern Ice Arena. Why don't we just start there?
Yeah, so it's a facility that has been around for a long time. Kind of the history of it is it was worked out that the school corporation would donate the land to the city Parks and Rec, and that's why it's named the Frank Southern Center, because Frank Southern was the person who kind of orchestrated that whole process.
Yeah, and he was a real person. Frank Southern was and I think his portrait still hangs.
Yes, it does.
At the Frank Southern Center.
Yes, it does. He watches over us while we work and while the kids come in and skate and that kind of thing. So it's been around for a long time. It was originally designed as an open air facility and eventually walled in. So people that know the ice arena and have been around the ice arena, that's why we struggle so much with the insulation and that kind of thing, because it was originally designed to be open air.
And that's why it's not open in the summertime, right? We just don't have the insulation for it.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of issues with that side of it, of trying to keep it open in the summertime. I think it's just a cost thing. We don't have enough money to be open in the summer, unfortunately.
It's like when you left the screen door open when you were a kid, and we're not cooling the whole outside.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, now you guys both kind of grew up at the Frank Southern Ice Arena. Tell us about that.
I started playing hockey when I was 3 years old, and I went all the way until my junior year of high school before I went to play in Massachusetts for a year. Played up in Northwest Indiana for 3 years. So I've been a part of not only this community, but a bunch of other communities kind of all over the country, and seen rinks all over the country, and kind of seen what makes a rink run well and what makes a rink not run so well. So,
well, now, Alec, ice sports isn't the first thing that comes to mind in Southern Indiana. So how on earth did you end up starting to play hockey as a 3-year-old?
I was born in Colorado. My dad loved hockey, so kind of just threw me out on the ice when I was 3 years old, and I kind of fell in love with it right away. I always wanted to come back. I tried sports like basketball and football, but I always kind of gravitated towards hockey because it's such an addicting sport. Once you get into it, it kind of sucks you in and makes you want to come back.
So you landed in Bloomington. You played some hockey here in town at the Frank Southern Center, and played then in Massachusetts, and now you're back working at the Frank Southern Ice Arena, so full circle.
Yeah, it's something. I'm so passionate about the rink, and I really value the time I had playing here and growing up in this rink. I probably spent more time at the Frank than I did at my own house. So it's been really cool to come back and try and improve the place that meant so much to me when I was younger.
Well, and as we were chatting a little bit before the podcast episode started, Chris, you mentioned that there are people in town that don't realize that we have an ice arena that's open October through March.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Alec. I started playing a long time ago, and I've been around this community for a very long time, almost my entire life, and forever I've been hearing, oh, I didn't know we had an ice arena in Bloomington. Oh, that's great. We should go skating. We should, whatever. And so it's always something that we're fighting against. And I mean, I've been kind of fighting against that since before I was working here. It's something that I've always tried to get as many people involved as possible. And but yeah, that's one of the things we want to accomplish on this podcast, is just try to get as many people to understand, like, what we're trying to do, and that we have it, that you should come check it out and see how it is.
So clearly there's a lot of mechanical things that go into making ice. And it's probably also worth mentioning that there's a really cool video on our website at bloomington.in.gov/ice, a time-lapse video of actually making ice, putting ice down in the ice arena. But there's also something exciting happening this summer in that we're gonna let the ice melt. So there's not going to be any ice this summer, but you're going to open the Frank Southern Center up periodically for some rink time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've always had we've had people asking about, can we use the ice pad or whatever, and obviously we haven't been able to keep the ice because of costs and that kind of thing, but we decided this year that we're going to open it up to some groups to come in. There's a couple different groups that I think are pretty excited to use the ice pad or the concrete pad, and we're kind of hoping to expand that as this year's kind of a test and just kind of trying to get people in and see what issues we have and that kind of thing, and try to solve those as quickly as possible. And then hopefully as we expand into future years, we'll have more and more people wanting to use it. So, Alec and I have both been involved in lacrosse in the past, so we're hoping to get some lacrosse groups in there. We're hoping to get, we have a group coming in that I think is really excited because they've been using an outdoor basketball court, and so they're excited because they're going to have it's going to be all set up for them. They don't have to go out there and set up every single time. So I think they're excited. And then, and we're hoping to get some roller hockey, ball hockey, all those kind of things. Just getting people in the door and seeing if they enjoy it and what things we can do better in the future in the summer. So, yeah.
I can see that's maybe your ulterior motive, too, to introduce more people to this sport that you guys both love so much, to hockey, on an ice-free environment, like you said, roller hockey, some rollerblades, things like that. And
yeah, I think one of the big things is, and Alec can kind of talk to this too, but one of the big things is hockey and figure skating. There's such high barrier to entry sports because you have to be able to skate to be able to do them, right? So it's not like if you're playing soccer, even if you're not the best soccer player, you can still run and keep up with the game and, enjoy it that way. But, we see a lot of kids that are just starting out or adults that are just starting out, either in hockey or in figure skating, and they kind of have to kind of stand there and watch as people go by, right? And so we're kind of hoping to get, in the summer, we're hoping to get some ball hockey and that kind of thing going on in there so people can figure out the game and enjoy the game. And then obviously once we have the ice back in, we have learn to skate programs, house hockey, adult hockey, things like that, where we're trying to hopefully push some people or give people the opportunity to learn the game and learn how to skate and that kind of thing.
So if you want to come and just try it out, that's what I'm hearing, is it doesn't matter your skill level, even if you're not a great skater or haven't really played ball hockey before, that this is an opportunity to do that?
Yeah. You never really know how it's going to go until you try it. It's kind of the hard part about trying any sport, You just got to get out there and get started. Hockey's kind of a unique sport. I think it's a lot easier to go out there and kind of figure things out on your feet compared to a blade of steel that's a couple millimeters wide. So hopefully take a little bit of the intimidation factor out of it by just letting people try it on the concrete first and then move into the harder part later.
Well, if there's any selling point to hockey or just skating in general, is that the skaters make it look so easy. They look so graceful and controlled. So even, hockey players, oh my gosh, they skate really fast and turn sharp and, you do that cool thing where you spray the ice chips on your opponent and, really cool flex move there. And of course the figure skaters, every time there's an Olympic year where there's a Winter Olympic Games, seems like our skating lessons for figure skating takes a big jump, because everybody wants to leap gracefully into the air and do spins.
Yeah, it's kind of funny actually. Alec and I have mentioned we've both skated for our entire lives, and so we're at least okay at skating. But we joke all the time. We watch the figure skaters when they're out there practicing and stuff, and it's incredible what they're able to do. I mean, the jumps and the spins and stuff like that, and I don't think that either of us would feel even comfortable attempting that, even as long as we've skated.
Yeah, I've been on the ice for 22 years, and some of the things they do, I could never even think of attempting anything like that. So a lot of them are skating school instructors. So the younger kids are in really good hands. They really have a lot to offer, and they're all great instructors, good people to learn from for sure.
And I suppose anything else, any other skill or sport, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. One of the things I did is ran our level 1 and level 2 house hockey program this year. In the first week, we have kids out there crawling around on the ice, kind of crying and laying on the ice, trying to figure out how to skate. And a couple weeks later, they're flying around and skating around and having a great time. And it's been really cool to see how much they've improved over the year. It happens so fast. It was crazy to think about at the end of this year how far a lot of those kids have coming from crawling around out there to skating around and playing full games. It all happened really fast, and it was really cool to see.
And Alec won't mention this, but we both played in that program. We both grew up playing house hockey, and then we played travel hockey and stuff like that. And Alec is one of the best players that's ever come out of Bloomington, and he started skating in that program. So it's we have the recreation side. If you just want to come in and enjoy it, and you're playing other sports or you're doing other things, absolutely come and enjoy it. But it's also a great place if you want to learn and get better and potentially play travel hockey and that kind of stuff. So it's honestly like house hockey and Learn to Skate are two of my favorite programs, because you get to see how happy the kids are by the end of the program. And like Alex said, it's always the first day. There's always a ton of crying and a ton of I'd like to I want to go back to my mom or whatever, right? But by the end of the program, they're smiling and I scored 3 goals today. Whatever. It's a ton of fun. So
I think anytime you can learn a skill, no matter how big or small, and master it, there's some triumph and some self-confidence in that. So
yeah, I heard on another podcast that I listened to, they said to a child, fun and learning are the same thing. So that's something that we want to teach the kids. We're not out there just helter skelter, but we're there also. We want them to enjoy it and have a great time.
So our Frank Southern Center is in great hands with our aquatics and facility manager, Chris Hamric, and sports specialist, Alec Curry. So, guys, thanks so much for being in the podcast studio today and talking about this summer at the Frank Southern Center, and about clearly your love for hockey. And it doesn't translate well into a podcast, but your faces have just lighted up, and you just both you're leaning forward and trying to talk into the microphone because you're so excited about hockey. So looking forward to having you as guests on the podcast again in the near future to talk about the sport you love so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks again for listening on today's episode of Recreation Rendezvous at the junction of nature and play. A shout out and big thank you to the Banneker Community Center, where our podcast studio is located. And as always, our podcast wizard, Caleb Poor, who does all of the post-production to make this episode sound fantastic. Find Recreation Rendezvous wherever you find your podcasts, and be sure to tune in to the next episode where we will talk about all things Bloomington Parks and Recreation right here in the beautiful town of Bloomington, Indiana. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.